This case is about property damage that we believe was entirely preventable. The defendants made changes to the grading along our shared property line using sand, shale, and other fill material. Before the damage occurred, we warned the defendants that these changes created a risk of runoff and debris entering our drainage system. Unfortunately, those warnings were not acted upon in a way that prevented the continued problem. Over many months, we tried repeatedly to resolve this matter directly and amicably. When those efforts were unsuccessful, we retained legal counsel and sent a formal demand letter, again giving the defendants an opportunity to resolve the matter without involving the court. They chose not to do so. Some of the defendants' statements are inconsistent with the timeline, and we can address those through the questioning. We respectfully ask the court to find in our favor and award the damages supported by the evidence. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Mr. Ms. Babcock, do y'all wish to make an opening statement, or do you want to waive opening statement?
We'll waive the opening statement.
All right, thank you, Jane. All right. Jessica, Brittany, who's going to present the case first on y'all side? Who's going to
I'm
present?
happy to.
Jessica.
Yes, I'm happy to.
All right, go ahead, ma'am. You may proceed.
Sorry. The case last September, last summer, the Babcocks had some alterations and DIY projects done on their property, which in September of 2024, while mowing the lawn, I noticed significant impact to our side of the shared fence over there, and significant impact to the French drains, specifically along that French line. I took photos. I sent communication to both Jane and Ken Babcock in those regards, and asked for a barrier to be installed last September. That did not happen, and continued from last summer's alterations to earlier this year. There was a significant amount of shell put down and backyard work done, and directly against our shared fence line. Again, with no.
Interrupt you here real quick. When you talk about
Yes.
shell, can you give the court a definition of what you mean by shell, so that I have an understanding what you're talking about in shell material? Because
Sure.
when I think shell, I'm thinking of going to the Texas coast and picking up seashells.
There's photos of it that I had provided to kind of share in those regards. It's multicolored, very small rock, basically. And I believe that specific type of shell could soak up water, and maybe that was the reason it was laid to begin with. Regardless, it's small enough to go within drains, French drain systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. After obviously living in Texas, there's a lot of rainfall that we experience here, and having somewhat of a slope of all of our backyards in this area, there was some additional weather coming in, and I asked once again, hey, can we please could you put a barrier up preventing continuous spillover from the debris from your yard? That wasn't managed, or it did not happen within an appropriate amount of time that was requested. Again, initially September of last year, Brittany and I hired and brought in 3 professional certified landscaping businesses to assess and review. All 3 of them independently stated, and it's also provided to the court within their documents, that the French drains have been significantly compromised with sand and shell. There's videos that I couldn't necessarily upload into the evidence binder, but there's evidence as well of shoveling sand out of the drainage system that we had. The landscapers suggested replacing it, all 3 of them did, with PVC pipe just in that area, because when they came and assessed it, there was still no barrier. April 3rd through 6th, whenever they came and reviewed it, there was still no barrier, and they said PVC is the best type to put there, should there not be a barrier installed later, to rinse out those drains. So we gave all 3 of the proposals, the professional assessments, to Jen and King, to have them review and assess and let us know which landscaping company would be best to move forward with, to try to avoid having to move forward with this route with the court. And at that time, and still after that, that was not accepted, or there was no ownership from the debris when there was a cost associated with it. So Brittany and I moved forward and spoke to our legal counsel, and that's when the demand letter and that style or type of communication was warranted.
Okay.
Sorry if that was long-winded.
No, you're fine.
As Brittany said earlier, on the response to our evidence binder that we had shared, there's several areas of discrepancies, and I could mention them later if preferred, but there's several instances of discrepancies in regards of timelines that I do think should be considered when reviewing the case.
Well, we're in court today, so you need to present your case and for me to review what you're giving testimony on and any evidence that you're presenting. And I take it that you did share this evidence with the Babcocks, correct?
Sure. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if they have that present, if you'll kind of go chronologically with the evidence that I'm looking at here, and that's why I'm going back and forth. I don't want you to think I'm just not paying attention to you. I'm just trying to make my notes and look at this real quick to see
Sure.
what you're talking about. So,
In the response to our evidence binder from the Babcocks, they claim that they met us prior to our sale and closing on the house and warned us about water challenges and grading and indicated that helped us get free French drains from our builders. When in fact, Brittany and I closed on the house in December of 2024. We had inspectors come inspect the inside of the house and obviously the property prior to closing, which they professionally shared, hey, French drains should be something that you all have here with a slope. And we negotiated that with our closing cost. We never met the Babcocks until March of 2025, which was several months after that closing. Another statement that I think is important to share, it's mentioned that it's an elective upgrade for the PVC pipe, when all three, like I said, professional businesses and certified landscapers came by, and there was no barrier up whenever they suggested a PVC pipe replacement for that specific area. And then the last part that I have is it was stated that there was matured sod laid to prevent the shell and other debris entering to our yard. Photographic evidence that I have provided in the evidence binder shows brick, cardboard, and shell continuing to enter with no barrier whatsoever, specifically against those French drains and all up through the fence line, sir.
okay. And you're talking about the bricks that's lying there and then seeped under the fence line.
Yes, sir.
As the march is continued.
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and continue.
That, sir, is kind of that's all I've got regarding my case. And we're asking for the we took the cheapest option, $2,050 with service cost and court costs to be reimbursed from the Babcock, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else?
No, sir. No, sir. No, Your Honor.
Mr. and Ms. Babcock, do y'all have any questions you wish to ask Brittany and or Jessica?
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. I feel, that it's very complex, as you can obviously see. The French drains
Okay, hold on,
that
hold on.
they
a second.
had.
Jane, do
I'm
you want
sorry.
to ask them, this is the time you must examine, ask them questions, not make a statement. Is this a question that you're asking? Do you want to ask them a question?
Okay, question.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
were you aware of the different levels of our yard when you bought the property, that we were higher than you were and that there was the gap under the fence? All the way from it's about 100, more than 100 yards down that fence line. There's like an 8-foot drop.
Let them answer, answer
Questions.
a
Okay,
short, brief question, let them answer, then move on to the follow-up
Thank you.
question. Possibly.
okay. Were you aware of the different levels between our yard and yours at the time of your purchase of the home?
Our direct fence line and yard for a significant amount is leveled. We also have a significant grading drop as well. If you're referring to the grading drop on the opposite side of our home, not directly against the fence, There's no misleveling even remotely close to our shared fence line.
Okay, the brick, I question whether the bricks and the cardboard are involved in any debris problem. I removed the cardboard, removed the bricks. Is there any problem related to anything other than the shale that came in on that last 8 feet toward your drains?
Yes, ma'am. Last summer, whenever your yard was elevated, that is when I originally sent text messages, which is provided to the court, along with photos sharing that since that project work was done to your backyard and I requested a barrier, that it was bleeding into and seeping into our French drains and also causing all of our yard work there and grass sod to be completely killed, and that had to be replaced as well.
Okay, did the landscapers talk to you about the problem of French drains on that long level area in the front yard? Of that being, was the problem of your whole French drains, or were the landscapers just looking at the boxes where the water comes in?
They looked through the drains and they also looked out once they replaced them and shoveled sand and debris from those French drains. It was all amongst that one line. And just for you to know, as I believe you might already know this, we've got parallel French drains on the other neighboring side, which we also get a lot of rain and runoff as well from the up neighbors. There was absolutely zero debris in any of those French drains on the other side of the property. It was solely on your side of the property in those three French drains with the photos provided after the work of last summer and then after the shell.
Questions. Did the barriers we put up stop any debris from coming into your yard?
The problem is that the issue and the blockage had already been created prior to the barriers being installed. Should the barriers have been installed last year, whenever it was initially brought to everyone's attention, I feel like we could have avoided this entirely.
Is there any threat of permanent debris coming into your yard?
Currently, no.
Are you concerned about water coming into your yard?
I'm not concerned about water coming into our yard, as water has come into our yard since we moved in here. Again, we had no issues with any of our functioning French drains until those three that are lined up against the mutual fence line on our shared side.
Okay, did the bricks and the cardboard have anything to do with the French drain?
Absolutely not.
So is that not an issue when they were removed and are no longer there?
My
That upper
statement,
portion, is that any problem?
my statement regarding the bricks and the cardboard was it wasn't a durable solution to prevent ongoing debris from your yard coming over to our yard. We needed a barrier installed, so appreciate that. But again, it's aftermath of all the damage that was provided, shown. You all even came into our yard and we showed it, videos of shoveling out debris from the corrugated pipe that we had.
Why did you choose the $2,000 rather than the $6,000 or the $4,000 solution? And what were the differences between those solutions offered by your landscapers?
The solutions were no different. The solution was the same. One of the proposals that we provided, the individual mentioned that their company would, on the walkway where neighbors walk their dogs and whatnot, they said that they needed to uproot the concrete there, and which was confusing to me. We chose the route that was more affordable, and it was also one of the individuals who professionally put in our French drains and works with Lancy and many other homeowners trying to be cognizant, of the cost and the route. But prior to that decision, I sent both of you all three proposals to review.
Did the water ever stop coming out of your French drain? Was it ever completely clogged or? not running water?
That's not the point. Any alterations to the integrity of those drains working. And after again, certified landscapers, 3 independently ones came by and assessed it. They all 3 stated that there's significant blockage within them and
Was
that
there
they need to
any,
be replaced.
right, was there any proof that all of that sand and silt came into the drains from our yard?
That was their assessment. It was also our assessment, and their assessments are listed on the proposals and the notes that they had.
Did
Again,
they-
as a reminder, our other neighboring property with French drains all there as well throughout our yard in general, and throughout our entire yard, we get overflow influx from our upper neighbors. It's not just our shared mutual side, and there is absolutely no detection of any other issues and very apparent sand, and shell from our neighboring fence line.
Did they ever come into our yard to see what the slope was and why anything was coming into your yard from our yard?
No one went into your backyard. That would be
So they didn't
But
see any
you-
leveling we had done.
you can see very blatantly, if you're standing in the top of our yard, the work that you guys have had done in your backyard. Obviously with shell, you could move the ground right beside of our bottom of the fence line and your shell would just seep over into our drains. We've got videos of that. You could stand on the top of our backyard and oversee all of the work that you've had and the difference of our slopes that we have.
Is the problem of the shale the only issue?
No, ma'am. As I mentioned, in September of last year, all of the leveling that you had done to the property or that was done over there seeped over, and it is all the photos. They're on our text message thread and they're provided to the court as well to see and time stamped and all of that. It started
What-
last year and it continued.
What leveling do you think was done?
That I don't know. I wasn't in your backyard.
So you don't know that the leveling changed? Do you know that the
shared-
leveling changed the problem?
You shared the leveling you shared it with us, but you also shared it in your response that you had your yard level summer of last year. And the
Okay.
beginning of September is when we shared the issues. We've had plenty of conversations about this project.
They were all text, okay. Was there, do you remember me giving you that little device to clean out French drains? I loaned it to you.
Correct.
The little big shot.
We
Did you-
never,
do you
we
still
didn't
have
use
it?
that. We're
You
not
didn't use it.
professional landscapers. And all of the professional landscapers, again, independently told us that we would have to sign, they first off strongly suggest rinsing out any French drain systems with corrugated pipes because it would very likely and very well could bust or rupture the pipes, and that they would not do it for us even at a minimal cost if we did not sign a liability waiver, which I did not find that appropriate. And again, we're not a landscaping or certified individuals to take upon those projects ourselves. And the last thing I want to do is hold myself accountable with blowing out my own French drains due to debris that came from the yard.
So did you ever?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am, I did not. And with all the rainwater that we get, it still did not rinse out everything within that side of the French drains. And with how much water we cannot, property value is very much important to us. And the last thing that we want to do is do DIY projects that could possibly cause hindrance to our property value or things that we've had professionals already priorly install.
So you did no attempt to clean the drains? You didn't?
Absolutely not.
When
you're done, you say no further questions.
Okay. And you don't do you anticipate any further damage from anything we do to your
No,
property?
ma'am, not with the barrier now that has been put up.
So in the front yard and the backyard, you're satisfied with the current situation?
Yes, ma'am.
So you
That's what
only
we
want the
asked for.
$2,000? You want us to pay for your French drain?
I think, yes, the ask is that our replacement among that side is paid for.
Okay, and would we have any guarantee if we had paid that $2,000 that you would, if it turned out that that French drain continues to not drain well into the street because of the slope and the various problems that come with water in the area, would there be any should we have any concern about you feeling that we made the choice of the $2,000 drain and it's not working and we're responsible in any way for your French drain
With
functioning?
all due respect, there's no issues whatsoever throughout our entire yard with any water flow, and there never has been since we had our French drains installed until the work that you had done on your property continuously since last year. Specifically, that has impacted our side of the fence there. There is a barrier there now, which means any additional work that you have done over there should not be coming over and impacting the only French drain system piece that we had mutually. There is no ill intention on our part whatsoever to try to ping you all with any financial obligations beside of this is damage that was done because of work that you had done. The damage was brought to the attention last September, asked for a barrier then to prevent any further buildup or blockage, and that continued and did not happen.
And you
And
feel,
so
okay, do you feel that all of the damage and the filling of silt in your French drains, the quantity of silt that was there came because of the shale and the dirt on that last 8 feet?
it's not a matter of my feeling. The professional licensed individuals certified 3 independently shared this is not normal silt, and especially comparing the other ones in our property where the water falls and overflows hit every part of our property was not impacted except for those French drain systems directly against the fence line. And because of their assessments, along with obviously my own thoughts and our assessment on it, it perfectly aligns that it came specifically from your yard and work that was done.
No further questions then.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Jessica and Brittany, do you have anything else you want to provide the court in direct testimony?
We're good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Your Honor.
Y'all rest at this time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Kenneth and Jane, this is your opportunity now to present your defense to the court as to why you feel you're not obligated to pay for what they're claiming as damages to their French drain system.
Okay. The problem of the French drains in our area is they're not, we're downhill from 5 different neighbors, and Brittany and Jessica are downhill from us. And the water comes through. The challenge of muddy water into our yard that then goes, and from the yards behind us, was such that when we first realized that water was coming through, we started to do work on our yard to try to deal with the quantity. There's an 8-foot drop between the top of our yard on the left and the last 8 feet of our shared fence line where the problem with the shale comes. We did purchase expanded shale and put it along the back and the other side fence. When somebody complained about the amount of shale we had in the street, and so we had to put it somewhere. And we didn't realize that it would come through the fence on that last 8 feet. And when we did, we tried to put sod in the way so it wouldn't come through, but it did go through. And the shale in a small amount. When I did see what shale was there, I offered to clean it up. The little amounts of shale that did come through, some of them did go into their drains. But the clog problem was not the shale, in our opinion, but the muddy water that was coming down the fence line. And because of their yard was originally graded about 4 or 8 inches lower than our yard. So during the rainstorms, there'd be a muddy river of water coming down from the back into their French drain. And we found that we had the same problems with muddy silt in our French drains. And it goes to the bottom, and ours are the corrugated French drains. And I did, we don't have a lot of money, but so I did use the device to clean out our French drains on both sides. And I was able to get water flowing through the French drains. But the problem of the way the French drains level out really means that, like the one landscaper said, that the sidewalk gets in the way and it's hard for the water to drain really well into the street.
Can I interrupt real quick, just for
Yeah.
clarification, when you're talking about French drains and sidewalk, does the French drain go under the sidewalk or does it
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
prior to the sidewalk under the landscaping and then go across the grass and then across the sidewalk along the curb down into the street?
What happens with the French drains when you get a Texas storm, no French drain is adequate. So what happens is on the left side of our property, where they're all uphill from us, we have 5 houses that the water flows over the wall and into our yard. We had a swamp in our yard. We had a French drain put in, and we still had a swamp in our yard. And the swamp continued over a lot of our yard. In the time period where the leveling was, the people that put in our French drain says, well, the problem is that you need to put sand by the foundation. You have some sand. And so right by the house portion, they did some leveling, but it never got close to their fence because they stopped, and there's still a ability for the water to go between. With the barrier up, the water now comes through our side of the fence more. And they don't, but I think they probably still have a river of water coming down on their side of the fence, because some of this year has been a lot drier than the previous, that one spring where we had the 18 inches of rain. Everything was terrible, and we've worked hard to try to get the water that comes into our yard to be used up. We've done a lot of additional French drains to try to move the water to places where it won't bother anybody, to move it away from Jessica and Brittany's fence. And we feel like we're making progress on getting that water to go to play. We've done a lot of work, and they have seen the work we're doing. But with the barrier there, it shouldn't have any negative impact. And we hope to do planting that will use up the water that comes into our yard so it doesn't go into their yard. I keep learning from the rainstorms that happen, what shale does. We have no shale along their fence line anymore. It never was anywhere but that last 8 feet where we thought that it would help solve a problem that it didn't help solve. But the muddy, they're possibly going to get silt in their French drains anyway. I was able to flush out the French drains without damage. It was a lot of work. It was very hard. I had to use the hose and water pressure to to get it to go into the street, and I was able to get the hose to run water under the sidewalk into the street, but the water goes over the top of the silt that collects in the bottom of the boxes. So it still comes out, but there has to be a whole lot of water before it comes out. And our French drains currently are passing more water than the new French drain that Jess and Brittany put in. So the whole drainage problem was caused by multiple developers in the way they graded the properties and the way they have water draining through yards from one yard into another. It's a mess, and we're concerned about being any further responsibility for water in their yard, because water is going to come into all of our yards, and we're still going to have silt coming into French drains. But the little bit of shale that they videoed is not what clogged their drains. It was all of the water, muddy water that was coming from the top. And it was not a result of our landscaping, but a result of the slope of the property and the water coming from the back.
Thank you, ma'am. Anything else?
I don't think so. I'm glad that they don't feel there's any damage further happening. And we paid a lot for those barriers, and barriers are not cheap. And so we ordered some that took longer to get than we anticipated. So we weren't able to meet their deadlines, but they acted to put in the French drain before their final deadline was even there. And we were out of town for a week before they put in their French drain, and it was already being put in when we got back. So we couldn't have done anything in that time period.
For the drain.
Yeah, we got the barriers in before they actually put in the French drain.
Thank you. Jessica, Brittany, do you have any questions of Mr. and Ms. Becker?
I have a statement. We're not concerned, nor have we ever been
Not
about.
a statement, not a statement. This is
Okay.
cross-examination. Do you have any questions of them that you wish to request in reference or wish to ask in reference to the testimony they just presented?
Yes, I do. With the project work that you've had done after the leveling, with additional French drains you mentioned put in, with perhaps any certified professional assessment on your backyard and the impact that it would have on our yard. Did you have a professional certified individual assess that, or all of these opinions and research that you've done?
Okay, the landscaper we worked with was retired. He was a professional certified landscaper for 13 years. We can't afford to hire everything done. We're retired. We have a limited income. The sale of our previous house gave us enough money to make some changes. There was the impact on the French drain on the left side of the yard is minimal. Most of the work that was done is on the other side of the yard, because that's where the water's coming into our yard. We figured if we can keep it out of our yard, it won't go into your yard. So actually by putting in the French drain on the other side of the yard, which focused our attention on that side of the yard instead of on the barrier, we were working to get that water not into our yard so it wouldn't go into your yard. And the amount of water, we have actually solved the swamp that was occurring behind our house. That's a danger area for Texas foundations. And so we actually have, I clean, in addition to cleaning the French drain on the left side of our yard, I actually cleaned the French drains on the side of the yard, behind our house, and the one that parallels the fence. And there were some problems about the water not going into the French drain properly, and we did a correction on that. So that any water that did come behind the house in that French drain would go to the street instead of into your
We
yard.
flushed out a large frog. I don't know.
Yeah, the French drains need to be regularly cleaned. They're not a permanent solution, and we really worried that your new French drain you put in wouldn't be a permanent solution and that you would still have concerns. So we went to additional expense that may not even have been necessary to put barriers the whole length of the fence, because we didn't want you to feel that there was anything from anything I did on our side of the fence in trying to use the water that came into our yard to make our yard productive. I love the gardens you have. You've been a great example to me of planting and things that, I was inspired by some of the things you did, and I would love to have a good relationship with you. And if I felt that paying you $2,000 would solve your concerns about us, I would do that. But I don't feel responsible for your French drain. I don't think we caused the problem to it. I think I caused a little bit of shale mess, but I would have cleaned that up. And I don't have the strength to help you with the cleaning out your French drain. But I'm not that sure that the French drain you have is going to be any good. Because we're still, we've still got the potential of great flooding Texas. And this year was dry, so anything that happened was very obvious. But I think the accumulation of silt in our drains happened in the last 2 years. Ever since your drains were put in, I think that silt has been accumulating in yours as well as ours. And I don't feel that the French drains are not going to solve all of our problems. I'm still trying to deal with how to use the water, because I don't want to sue the neighbors uphill from me or the neighbors on the side, because two of the houses on our left side that were flooding into our yard have been sold and got new people in them. And the one behind us that causes us the biggest problem right now, they might sell, and I'm not going to sue anybody. And we'll put in all of the things we can to deal with the water that comes into our yard. And we hope we don't negatively impact your yard. But if we have a real big one, I'm afraid that we'll have those rivers of muddy water coming down through our yards and putting, different things, moving it around, and we'll try as hard as we can to not have that be a problem.
Any other questions?
Nothing more, Your Honor.
Thank you. Kenneth and Jane, do you have anything else you wish to present in your defense?
It wasn't intentional, the statement of their concern was that it was intentional and negligent, intentionally and malignant, I don't know what, that we altered it, graded the yard. We did not do any grading that we would have affected that yard. We feel that we will continue to offer advice on if they need to try to clean the drains themselves. I know it can be expensive to clean drains, and I don't know if their current drain will need cleaning. I didn't know what kind they would put in. But I'm glad that they think they have something they like, but I am still concerned about all of our French drains and all of our water. And I want us to be good neighbors and be able to talk to each other, because messaging is terrible. We're not clearly understood, and we don't see body language, and we can't let each other know how much we care about them. And I am impressed with how much you care about your house and your yard and the things you do to it. And I want to be able to talk to you and enjoy being neighbors. And I don't want all of the neighbors to be suing each other.
No,
Because it's too complicated, who's responsible for what problem.
You know. Anything else?
No, I just hope we can resolve it.
All right, thank you. Jessica and Brittany, any rebuttal?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Kenneth and Jane, anything else you want to add today?
No,
All right, thank you. Now I take it that both sides have presented their case fully. At this time, I'll take any closing arguments. And Kenneth and Jane, I'll start with you. Do you wish to say anything in a closing argument to the court at this time in reference to the suit that's been brought against you?
I think we did try to mitigate damages, their second point about that. And we think that maintenance of the French drains would have been possible. From what I've been told that sometimes French drains has to be replaced every 5 years, regardless of how good a French drain it is. And I don't know if French drains are really going to solve all of the problems, but we think that their current French drain would have worked, the one they had before, if they had waited for us to put in our barriers and help them know that they could be cleaned. We would have even loaned them our friend landscaper who doesn't charge as much, and
certified.
he is not currently certified in Texas, but he is definitely experienced and has been a great help to me. And I pay him by the hour to help me with the yard work in the back, and we still try to do the front according exactly to what the HOA and everybody expects it to look like. But and we want our yard to fit in with the neighborhood and not bother anybody, and try to keep our weeds under control and things looking nice.
Thank you. Jessica and Brittany, closing statement.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate the court's time and consideration of this matter. The evidence shows that this damage was preventable. We warned the defendants about the risk before it occurred. We gave them multiple opportunities over many months to address the issue. And even after the damage occurred, we made every reasonable effort to resolve it without involving the court. While there were differences in the parties' accounts today, we respectfully submit that the photographs, communications, and independent professional evaluations are the most reliable evidence before the court. We are simply asking to be made whole for the cost of repairing damage that was caused through no fault of our own. For those reasons, we respectfully request that the court enter judgment in our favor for the damages supported by the evidence. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. So let me do a couple of follow-up questions real quick for some clarification, because I still had some fog in my mind over the whole case from both sides. Your original drain pipes were felt covered, rigid PVC type French drains that were initially put in when y'all purchased the house. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And the corrugated. And
Right.
when they removed those, they removed them from that drain that you were talking about to the curve area.
Yes,
And
sir.
replaced it with a solid PVC. Did they use the PVC with the hose in it, or did they use a solid PVC pipe just to make it a drain all the way to the end? In other
They
words,
drilled.
the drilled hose in them?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the amount of piping that they replaced, it was just that short section. They didn't replace any upper toward the backyard. And I believe y'all have a pool in your backyard. Am I correct?
No, sir, we don't.
You don't? Okay, I saw
Looks
some,
like we do when it rains, but no, we don't.
trust me, if you saw my yard or last 2 days and where I live at, it looked like a big pond.
But yes, sir, they just replaced only the part that has been or that was impacted prior to the barriers against that shared fence line.
Okay, so I'm looking at the pictures that's provided in the defendant's answer of the PVC pipe that's laying in your yard after it was removed. And I'm looking at some with just a little bit of settlement in it, but I don't see very much settlement in it on the other pipes. Can y'all provide me any more additional information in reference to the PVC pipes not draining properly with the settlement in it and the reason why you had to replace it? Because what I'm looking at is something that look at care of French drains every 3 to 5 years. They recommend that you flush them out. About 30 years is the average lifespan of a French drain from my experiences of dealing with landscaping and French drains from a personal standpoint.
Yes,
So,
sir.
and y'all lived in this house for how long?
We moved in February of 2025, but we purchased it in December of 2024.
So at the time that y'all purchased the home and you closed on it, you're below the properties that are behind you. Am I correct?
Yes,
The
sir.
property behind you are built up. Were those houses completed or were they under construction?
They were all completed.
They were already completed when y'all purchased your home or closed on your home?
Yes, sir.
And
There were
landscape,
people living in it. Yeah.
and landscape in the backyards were in at those yards as well?
Yes, sir.
And I know you live in an HOA community, so I think it's a requirement that landscaping have grass in front and backyards. They can't leave the backyards uncovered, correct?
Yes, sir.
So with that being the case, there was grass that was there, but it was new grass. So it hadn't had time to grow itself and develop the root system that's needed in the course of that time. So you would have some settlement that would wash under big rain. And in the pictures y'all provided to the court, you have the French drains and it shows the flow of the water. And you're saying that this is the only drain that was clogged. The others were not clogged. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you provide pictures? Because I don't see pictures of those other drains on what their status was.
I don't believe I provided photos of them. I do have them, and I do I'm sure that the landscapers should need to be they need to be asked. I did have them assess all other drains, and they also stated no issues. So I guess my ignorance of not providing photos from the other side, but there's been no issues with any other French drains. And another statement I'd like to share is our neighboring properties that are above us. One of the neighbors came down, introduced himself. They've been up there and been living for over a year, so their grass it's not brand new sods that were placed, if that makes sense. And the same waterfall we kind of get on both back end sides of our home. It's both aggressive, but the fact is it's water and it's not sand and buildup. And
But
so
remember,
even,
when water goes across grass, it will pick up sediment.
sure.
And is there a brick wall, retaining wall on the back of your property?
It's a stone wall. Yes, sir. There's a retaining.
I believe it's the same thing for the Babcocks. Am I correct, Mr. and Ms. Babcock?
Yes.
And this is the last drain that's just a few feet from your fence beside your house before it enters the front yard, correct? So it would have all that runoff from the yard. But looking at the pictures, the majority of the water that comes off the back moves over to the other side of your yard on the slope. Am I correct on that grading? Or does the main body of water come down between yours and the Babcock's property?
Honestly, sir, the water flow, whenever there is substantial water running, it comes down. I'm sure they have some in theirs. I haven't necessarily watched how it hits, but in our specific backyard, on the inside of both of our side fences, it's like a waterfall on both sides. And so we've got French drains on both sides going down to the street, if that makes sense. There's holes opening up for the water to go out in the cul-de-sac.
That were drilled into the curb concrete?
Yes, sir.
And looking at the pictures that's provided, both by the picture you took over the fence and then that Mr. and Ms. Babcock provided to the court, the area in question where that one particular French drain is not a yard area. It's actually been turned into a garden area. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And with that being the case, you're stating that they brought in some shell, which kind of gave some irrigation purposes for the garden area. And during the course of that time, it eroded under the bottom of the fence, which caused the water flow to bring in that settlement into that particular drain, correct?
Sure.
And Kenneth and Jane, explain what y'all done to correct any runoff from that area. You said y'all have some barriers up now. What kind of barriers?
Oh, okay,
What kind of barrier did you install along that fence
there,
line?
there are 10 barriers. We actually had some 15-inch barriers that we put in that area, the 8-foot area, and we put them down far enough. See, one of the problems is the first time we had an issue, one of the sprinkler heads that was put in from our yard was actually under the fence and pointing down, making a hole in the neighbor's yard, and their dogs, the dogs got in the mud. So we had a bit of a hassle over getting that capped. So, and we actually have no.
Was that sprinkler in the plaintiff's yard? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
it was pointed into, it was kind of under the fence and going into the plaintiff's, no, they were in Jessica and Brittany's yard.
Yeah.
The sprinkler, our sprinkler, we've actually on the other side, one of the neighbor's sprinklers was in our yard, and since they have moved out, we actually capped their sprinkler that was in our yard, so it wouldn't keep causing us problems over there. The sprinkler people and the fencing people didn't exactly do everything right. And the French drain people didn't exactly do everything right. The French drains that go toward the street are lower than the outlet for the French drain. So it really has to build up a lot of water for any water to come into the street and drain. And then there's no drainage hole in the cul-de-sac where we live. So there just were a lot of mistakes made that make it harder for the French drains to drain into the street. And so there's water, even now, when there was a big rain, there was a river of water that flows over the French drain and drains over the sidewalk into the street. And slowly.
I had that even with the best of French drains. I mean, I've seen it on professional golf courses who have French drains everywhere. When you just have a heavy downpour, it's not going to.
The French drains don't solve it. And
so the concern is here, the reason the suit's been brought is that they tried to mitigate any concerns with their French drain being filled up with silt, being from the shell that she explained, or anything else of runoff out of y'all's yard under the fence into that particular collection box for the French drain, and that it stopped that French drain up, which is some pictures that she provided to the court. And in the course of that the remainder of the French drain, since it's corrugated, it collected sediment in it, which caused it not to work and flow properly. That's their concern. And that's why they had chosen to have it replaced and file suit against you. So the court has to answer the question as to whether or not the mitigation that you tried to do continued the damage, or was there prior damage? When I say damage, if there was sediment prior to that before you put in this garden along the side of your fence there that is shared between the parties. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all gave me a lot to think about today. Normally I can make decisions at the end of court. This one's going to take me a little bit of research because I want to look at some of the details that's provided in the sloping of the property, the grading of the property, and And y'all have only been in this property a short time, Jessica and Brittany, I think not even over a year now. And,
With
so-
a French drain, oh, pardon me, may I ask another question, sir?
just real quick, ma'am, it's kind of out of order, but I'll allow
I'm
questions.
sorry, Your Honor, I'm not very used to this.
Okay.
Were the French drains in for a while before you moved in?
No, they stated that they were testified that the French drains were installed at the time that they were building the project, so it was all done.
They
with-
were actually living in the property?
My understanding was it was done as part of your construction, correct, at the time of landscaping?
That's correct.
Correct.
And I'm making note of that as well, from the testimony that they said. That's why I was able to retain that. Because I also know that when you, have brand new yards, you are going to get the settlement from the brand new grass, because it just hasn't dug into the root system or not into this foundation. But, that's why I asked the question about the other drains as well, and the pictures provided there. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your diligence and presentation of the case. Both sides have done an excellent job today. It's making me take a moment to take everything on advisement and render the decision here in a little while this afternoon. I should, by the close of business, email a judgment and what my decision is to both parties. I wish all the best and Godspeed to both both
Thank
parties.
you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome, ladies. And Mr. Kenneth, can you say good morning? Because I want to hear you speak. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
A peaceful neighborhood, two families living side by side. But behind the fences, a hidden battle was forming. A simple backyard renovation would soon lead to a courtroom fight over thousands of dollars, damaged drainage systems, and one question: who was really responsible? Jessica and Brittany claimed their neighbors' landscaping changes caused sand, shell, and debris to flow into their French drains, damaging the system they depended on to protect their property. They said they warned the neighbors months earlier, asking for a barrier before the problem became serious. After hiring multiple landscaping professionals, they claimed the drains were compromised and requested over $2,000 for repairs. But Kenneth and Jane told a different story. They argued the neighborhood already had major drainage problems caused by steep grading, heavy Texas storms, and water flowing from multiple properties. They admitted some shell escaped their yard, but insisted the damage was caused by natural runoff, not their landscaping. With both sides presenting evidence, photos, and conflicting timelines, the judge faced a difficult decision. Was this preventable property damage, or a problem created by the land itself? A neighbor dispute had become a battle over responsibility, money, and trust.